All right, I'm going to save digging into the Bills-Dolphins games and the stats and numbers and all the jazz that goes into that. If you're a Dolphins fan, you got to believe you got a shot to win. You got to believe it. Anything can happen. Chances aren't high, but I'm going to get into the numbers, some interesting things within that. But I want to do a simple podcast today. Dolphins, sometimes they covering them and being a fan, your head gets jammed and it feels like there's 1,000 little dwarves banging away with ball-peen hammers on your skull. Kind of was the way it felt a little bit this week. So there's some straightforward, non-digging and creating graphic type stuff to talk about. Injuries. This is going to be a very interesting little part because there's some keys here for us that are missing. And the Bills, who have had lots of injuries, they're still missing some guys, but they're pretty healthy. Potato chip fans get a call out from Tua. I got to get into that a little bit. Chris Perkins, who I really like, but there's an article that came out and said maybe Chris Grier was right about the offensive line all along. I said I'm not going to cover the offensive line, but I just got to touch on it a little bit because it's really not so much about the offensive line, although it is a little bit. And then Hill came out and he's calling himself a blocker in the tweet thing, Twitter thing, X thing. I don't know if they still call it a tweet, whatever it is, on that thing. And so that's a shot fired, especially when you go back to the image of him a couple of weeks ago, sitting here with the fingers crossed, him and Waddle, what appears to be mocking McDaniel, and McDaniel just accepting and trying to join in and feel cool. So we're entering this big Bills game, and clearly there is a lot riding on it, you'd figure. But we don't know what's going on in the background. If this team is serious about winning, they're willing to do the big thing to get rid of a lot of stuff that's not working, considering Ross is 84 years old. We don't know. We're hoping that if he does get rid of him, it's the right move. And if he doesn't get rid of him, it's the right move. Whatever it is, the right move. He's 84. I'm going to be 84 too. And I'm not making billions of dollars on the Dolphins, just like you. So we all just want success. So I'm going to get into the whole thing. Injuries right off the bat. Holland, he's got the hand and the knee. You're not going to be able to trade him. He's ruined his value, and maybe we get him back on the fly cheap next year. But if we don't re-sign him, you're not going to get Bubkiss because he's missing a lot of time, and your compensatory pick, that is getting down into the pit too. But he doesn't look like he's going to be in. May will be back. It appears Poirier will be back. He took a rest day. A lot of guys taking rest days. Saw some of that on Twitter thing too. All the Bills players are in, except for one guy, and he's actually injured, and we got a bunch of guys resting. And it does create a herky-jerky environment. I don't know how much. You got to rest some of them, but some people make it a point of it, and I kind of agree. Seal is still out with the eye thing. Big. They love to run inside. We're going to have to blitz. Why do you think we blitzed 60% last week? We normally blitz 28%. Good offensive line, dangerous runner, mobile quarterback, but we had to fill in the gaps by adding extra, and that put problems on the back end for the secondary. There's a lot of parallels between the Cardinals and the Bills. Unfortunately, the parallels get accentuated, and the weaknesses they have, the Bills don't have. So you're going to see a lot of things play out similar to last week. Hopefully not with the win. Kohu's out. That means, oh man, our second round pick who we're waiting on, just like we wait on so many players to develop. It's looking terrible. I mean, you would figure people would complain about Kohu lagging behind on mid to late clock. Cam Smith is looking very poor. It's after all these injuries and not really having a first season. Maybe it wasn't Fangio. So Kohu looks like he's not going to play with that neck. Looks like it could be serious. I hope not. I feel bad for the kid. And then Julian Hill's going to be out, which might be addition by subtraction. But he does bring some physicality. When he's on, it looks great. It just, he gets penalties and he's not on as much as you want. So it really puts a lot of the onus on the rest of this crew, especially the offense. Because the offense is mostly healthy except for the lack of Hill. So they're going to have to really carry this. And I'm going to get into that tomorrow. But this whole thing's been built with tremendous amount of capital on this offense to be a high-scoring, high pass yardage, potent offense. And we haven't seen it since the flood. This is the game where it comes through. We've got Jonnu Smith now, and we've got OBJ, and we got Malik Washington, and now we got Jalen Wright if we decide to use him. So this offense is all together and it's got to do its thing. Defense, you got to give a little. People are complaining about the defense. They're playing with a lot of missing guys. And the offense of the Cardinals is substantially better than their defense. So our defense had a much harder job last week than the offense. People are very happy about 27 points. It's 2 points more than the average they give up. With what we've invested in this thing, you'd expect you'd have to put 9, 10 points more because your offense, your passing offense specifically, is supposed to be so good. Run game, put up yards. Let's see what it does this week. If we could put it together with the run game and then open up the pass game, then maybe we can get back to, I'm sorry, Chris Grier. I'm sorry, offensive line. I'm sorry, Mike McDaniels. It's going to take that. So potato chips. A lot of people are making, well, it's not that they shouldn't. It's not the end of the world, but Tua said, I'd like to see a lot of other people go in the back there and try to catch that ball too. It's not as easy as what it looked like sitting down on your couch eating potato chips. Remember, he was the nice, friendly guy, and now he's the salty. All the fans are happy. He's the salty too. I like it. Now he's the salty too, and he's saying you're a potato chip eater, and you can't say nothing. He might be right. I don't think I could do it. I played a little bit of football. I don't think I could catch that thing. The thing was high, a shooter, but he also called out Brewer. But of course, he said, well, it wasn't my best day, but he put him first. This is not a good look. It's weak. I like Tua, but this is weak. But you saw how he came out after the injury and how he acted, and it's kind of petty, and it brings up narratives that don't need to be there. And there's a lot of these potato chip eaters that are big fans of his that said, hey, dude, you got to get that. And he's got a lot of fumble issues. He had fumble issues last year a little bit. He had some this year. It's clearly something, not a death knell, but it's on him. It's his job. He's getting paid $50 million or whatever he's getting. You know, the potato chip eaters aren't making that money. You're supposed to get that. It wasn't easy. I said that when I first saw it. But why? Why go down this route? Just say, yeah, I got to be better next time and go out and be better, and that's it. Don't throw your center under the bus. Don't attack the fans. It's petty. It's petty. And it's not bringing him anything good. Was it good? What good is it getting? But then you have to wonder, why is he doing this now? Is there some kind of buzz going on behind? I mean, he can't be upset at the fans. He says he doesn't read the news clippings. He doesn't pay attention to Twitter. So is this really about the fans? I don't know. I don't think it was necessary. And I don't think it's bringing him any good. You know, say what you want about Flores and the Belichick system, about shutting up and not saying anything, but you don't want to do it. You might think it. You could talk to your friends and vent with them, but don't put it out in the media, because now if he screws up again, it's going to be memes and all kind of negative stuff you don't need. I was not happy with this for him. He could do whatever he wants. He could call people idiots. I don't care. It's up to him. It's his mouth, his words, his life, his freedoms. But I don't know if this is going to get him anything. I don't know if this is going to bring anything good to the table. So whatever. He can do whatever he wants. Be whoever he wants. Look at Aaron Rodgers. People don't like him, but he's doing his thing. Some people like it. Some people don't. You got to deal with the fallout. Just produce, and then you're a winner. Then people will be laughing. It'll go the other way. But if you fly, it's not even wise, because he's saying this stuff going into a very tough game. And if it doesn't play out, it's just going to be a bad look. And I think he needs to be wiser, because I do want to see him succeed. And I don't eat potato chips, although I sometimes like to, but I don't. So then Perkins came. I'll save that for last. Hill, you could see him in his little thing a couple weeks ago. I was like, what is going on, man? You're losing the game. You sit next to Waddle. You're yucking it up, making funny jokes about, like, praying that I get the football or whatever you're talking about. McDaniel comes over and he's laughing, and he walks off like it's a comedy skit. I thought it was a very bad look for McDaniel, very bad look for his players. Could you imagine Waddle and Hill doing that to Shula or another great coach? That is a sign of breakdown. It's a sign of a lack of respect. They view McDaniel as almost a peer. And that feels good for us, some of us fans who like that stuff, They're chummy, it's all, but it don't work. When things get ugly and you don't have the fear and the respect, it kind of breaks down. And so he said, I like my pro-am team over anybody. He said, and somebody said, I like it when you make impact plays on Sundays. I don't know if that's a sarcasm back to Hill. And then he came back. He says, same, now I'm a blocker. I don't know if he's that. But he's clearly saying he doesn't like what's going down. He's not getting the football enough. And now he's basically implicating McDaniel, maybe Tua, or whoever. But he's saying that he's not being used right. He's intimating, that's the word I was looking for, intimating, I haven't had my extra cup of coffee, that he's not being taken care of, that he's just a blocker. Well, why? McDaniel's not calling the plays. McDaniel's not setting it up right. Tua's not delivering. It's not because he's missing footballs like he did with Huntley. It's not because he did anything wrong. But this is a sign for a guy like Hill, if this doesn't get fixed, he's going to start acting out. And I saw somebody say that it's like with the Bills guy or whatever saying he's going to get traded. I don't know. This goes back to the Perkins article. Perkins came out and said Grier might be right about the offensive line. So I rolled my eyes. I like Chris. Everybody was celebrating after the Denver game last year. 1972 Dolphins with the 1980 Dan Marino offense combined together. We're going to the Super Bowl 5 times in a row. It was sealed, dealed on the Giants, and then quickly evaporated. This team, because of its talent, skilled talent, it has a strong divide between lesser teams. Cards beat us, but they got a terrible offense, bottom 5. Let's see what this happens this week. It's bad for him to say this. Same thing kind of like Tua, because they were kind of killed against week 2 against the Bills. Really haven't played any defenses, maybe the Titans, but they were down Simmons. They had no offense. We have really yet to play a good team except the Bills. Now this will be the second time. In football, it's all about horses. If you've got really great horses, you could blow out all the teams. Even if they're better constructed, you just got low-end stuff, and they're missing some pieces, and you just got so much talent, you lap them. But then all of a sudden, that huge separation gets squashed and turned to a negative when you go against a good team. And that's what's going to happen with the Dolphins. People are talking it up on the offensive line, and they can. That's their right. That's their evaluation. I try to talk about all our pass rush mitigation, how little we're being blitzed, how they play us high, and this is what we're getting. People are celebrating the run game. I think we were 9 yards over what they normally give up a game, Arizona that is. And so let's see how this plays out going forward as we get into the tough teams, as we get into bad weather, as we go on the road. Let's see if Chris Grier gets the same articles at the end. This kind of bothered me because I really think that I'm hoping Stephen Ross is the guy for the job. I'm praying that he puts others before himself, the people that support him and love the team like he did at one point. He didn't own the team. He was a fan. He was rooting like, why is this idiot not winning? Hope it's not about comfort and hey, I'm 84. I don't know how much time I have to rebuild. That's not going to win you anything. It's not going to win you a good credit in the eyes of men, the fans, and it's not going to get you what you want if it's supposedly a Super Bowl. You've got to do what's right no matter what, even when it's not convenient, even when you say might not be there to see this thing finished. You got to do it for the love of the fans and the love of the team. But what I'm feeling now is the beginning of the hustle. And I was hoping that come deadline, we would see some action, getting rid of guys like Mr. Blocker Hill over there and get some ammo for the future for another GM. But I also said if we don't see any moves, it could mean nothing's going to happen. The suit hustle media push of, well, it was just some injuries and we had and then now we're getting, and it's going to be all good, is on the way. And we'll have Grier and McDaniel, everything. There'll be like maybe some minor thing. And it'll be turned into like, oh, well, that was a really major thing. And now we're set up. Then actual real changes that matter. I'm still hoping that's not the case. But I got that feeling this trade deadline. I mean, let me tell you something. We go into that game against Buffalo and Tyreek's not playing. I'm going to breathe fresh air. That means he's getting traded. And he's a good player for us. We're certainly going to lose a lot with him. But you should be able to use that ammo and fill this thing up. You got Waddle, who you spent 2 first-round picks on. He should be the guy, the little guy driving the speed and pushing the defenses back while you go get a cheaper guy, like a Coleman in this, late in the first round, that he could be your other guy. And then you got ammo to do things to spread this out. You can clearly see that if Hill and Waddle were the right two together, that they would be still working and creating good yards and still driving his offense, but they disappear. Why? It's a bigger discussion. But we've got to flip this thing over. And Grier and Ross have been together for a long time. There's a lot of comfort there. There's a lot of money attached. I don't know if we're going to do it. I don't know. This game should be a game where, hey, if we keep it close, that's a good sign. Ross was right to be patient, maybe not trade the players and let the season thing play out. But if this team gets blown out and decimated, and then we don't use a trade deadline, then it's not going to be pretty. This is not going to be a thing that can be fixed by one draft. It's just not. And so what does that mean? More hustle and more hype and very little substance. And that's not what we need. So I think Tua is looking like he's getting frayed. He's kind of acting out of his personality because he's a nice guy. He doesn't normally do this, but he's under pressure and he's kind of saying things. Hill's kind of normally a guy like to do this, but for him to say that kind of stuff out in the open is a call out to everything he knows is going to get brought up. And then Perkins coming out and do that, I just thought that was not wise. So here we go. We're on the edge of going against Buffalo, who we never beat on the road. Short-handed on defense. And what happens? How does this team respond? I'll get into that tomorrow, guys. Hope all's well. I'll have my new lens that's the same as the old lens and get the better quality going forward. Hope you enjoyed. Curtis saying, be well, go Fins, Curtis out. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.